So thank you. All right, tonight I will give a talk on this subject, initiation far from heaven, and then we will rearrange the room and pass imaginatively through all 9 initiations. It may be the only time in your life you ever do this. But I figure if we stretch the imagination enough, you never know. Some intimation of the meaning of these larger spheres of possibility may dawn upon us. And of course, you know, we're not fooling ourselves. Before us lie principally the first and second initiations, principally, as it is for all humanity. And occasionally the third initiation, and very, very rarely, you know, we have to know our place and how we can cooperate. So we don't want to exaggerate. We want to work correctly in the place where we truly, and without glamour and without illusion, find ourselves. Initiation far from heaven. Well, what a vast opportunity we now face of growing into what the human being can truly become. But of course, it could be a long time. When you really think about the 9 initiations which Master DK has presented and discusses in the wonderful book, Rays and the Initiations, completing them lies far ahead, after all, far ahead even for the Christ and the Buddha, who are presently somewhere in this rather long process of taking the 7th initiation. So certainly, for those who are taking the first degree, thousands upon thousands of years lie ahead, even millions of years may lie ahead between that and completing the final initiation. The story of the Christ and the Buddha rather illustrates this. We're told that the Christ took the 3rd initiation in a 4th ray ashram in Atlantis, I suppose some millions of years ago. Maybe Philip would know, you know, more precisely when, but somehow during the 4.4 or 4.5. And certainly his first initiation was long before that, and he was a member of Earth Humanity. So maybe in those days, millions of years might have passed between these important points of demarcation. As for the Buddha, we're told that he might have taken the 3rd initiation on that chain long past called the moon chain, but opportunity was not available. Rather, he had to wait millions of years before opportunity was offered in the 4th round of our present chain. So it seems like some patience is required. And together they took that great initiation of transfiguration in a 4th ray ashram during this Atlantean period. It makes me, you know, soul rays change rarely. Everybody is incarnated either as a 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th ray personality, and the souls can never be any different at first, 4, 5, 6, or 7. So if you find yourself as a soul on the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd ray, there's been a change somewhere along the line. And Master DK talked about this among his students, and there were a couple of them moving from the 6th ray to the 2nd ray. It was not an easy process, and it was taking a while, not in just one life. Sometimes I wonder about the Christ, if he did not individualize in Lemuria as a 6th ray soul, moving to the 4th ray in Atlantis, and moving to the 2nd ray as he now is in the Aryan dispensation. I wonder. But I think that 2 changes of soul ray is probably all you're going to get, and most of us will just have 1. And some of us won't have any. We might just stay that way all the way through the 4th initiation on either ray 4, 5, 6, or 7. Well, these are the technicalities, you know, but the science of initiation is indeed a science. And, you know, many of us want to study this and know with our clear mind what is involved and not just deal with wishful thinking. We want to prepare in the right way for what is happening. Perhaps now there is a speeding up. Not, you know, I think we have to watch out for the idea of speed, because ego can attach itself so easily to speed. The so-called fast track. You know, you're on the fast track and now will take all of this right away. But maybe indeed it is the case because of the time-space schedule, we're told, of the planetary logos, who does need group initiation in order to fulfill that time-space schedule. But whatever it is, it's going to take from all of us a lot of spiritual fortitude. Not everybody is going to tread this path of initiation. Many people will go along with the leavening of the mass consciousness as it slowly rises into ever greater arenas of possibility. But for those who selflessly and for the sake of the plan and for the sake of others wish to take the risks of entering into the occult accolade of fire, then okay, it's going to be a special arduous trip. And I'm assuming that among those who are gathered here, once we drop all of the encumbrances, our glamours and illusions, that we'll really be intent on doing that. Humanity's first initiation looms before us. It's quite mysterious. We know that not everybody in the human race is going to take the first initiation. Some won't even be on the path until the next round, the 5th round. So what does it mean, really? Well, we'll try to deal with that a little as we go along, but a certain proportion of the human beings will stand before the Christ as the initiator, and thereby somehow let into humanity a great leavening and enlightening effect which will raise the whole human race. Now, maybe, you know, we'd like to be among those people that do that. And so many people say, oh, well, the first initiation is just, you know, it's just first initiation. But the thing about it is we're told that the Christ retakes the first initiation every time he administers that initiation. So I figure if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for us. And it's a, you know, it's a great birth that we want to remind ourselves of in the heart and sustain that no matter what we do. You know, only recently humanity has become the world disciple, and only recently has a long-awaited time come in which humanity can, through the strenuous efforts of some of its more advanced units, take this birth of the Christ in the heart. So we're living in amazing times, and he says millions may take this degree. And it will be opened, it will be offered publicly, and the Christ will be the initiator as he stands among us, and the Masonic organism, the church organism, and the banded esoteric organisms, the 1, 2, 3 of it, monadically, will offer their candidates for initiation. So if we're serious about it, we're into some very exciting possibilities which will really make it possible for us to help in ways that we otherwise could not if we were not serious about it. And every time I use the word serious, can't help but think of the star of initiation that lies behind the whole thing. You know, that great star, Sirius, which is behind our whole spiritual hierarchy. So we're all on our way to liberation. We are emanations of the one universal logos, at least in my view, although we are far, far down what I call the emanative stream. We've immersed ourselves deeply in what we call matter, you know, the denser pole of spirit, even though parts of ourselves are already enjoying the full consciousness of the higher realms. And we've done all this for the sake of redeeming lives or monadic extensions or parts of the one that are still more immersed than we are. Because after all, from a monadic point of view, and really everything's the monad, the one monad really, we, every one of us, is a lord of ceaseless, persevering devotion. I like that phrase, lords of ceaseless, persevering devotion. Kind of reminds you that the monad is on the 6th plane, 2nd down, 6 up, and a great commitment to lifting the lower lives, and for that reason we've undertaken the great pilgrimage. We are the pilgrim, undertaking this to lift the lower lives. Now, as far as the human monads are concerned, a great, what I call emanative retraction has begun. Involution has turned to evolution, and now we can take our evolution in hand with intelligence and will and love and commitment, and really join the ranks of those who can help. We are rising then into the higher worlds, and redemptively, you know, just like the red cattle of Geryon, you know, we're kind of trying to take the lower lives with us, just as we are being updrafted or taken into the higher realms by those who are our superiors. There's always one hand up and one hand down. I forget which hand it is, but it's one of them, you know, and one is holding on to the top and one is helping below. So at this rising towards the place of our origin, I call this initiation. Re-rising to the place of our origin. And boy, when you think about what our origin really is, it gets philosophically interesting. But let's just say from soul to monad and beyond and beyond. So re-rising into our natural status. We are breaking into the new, for us, fairly new anyway, until we recognize it, you know. We're breaking into the new, which has spirits, with which as spirits we are greatly familiar. And the DK says when you die, it's a very familiar experience. And I'm sure that when we rise into the higher worlds, it's also a very familiar experience. That's where we came from anyway. So, with this rising comes added power to serve, added power to save. We rise to serve and to save. That's the motive. Anything else won't get us there. Anything else is just egoism, and you know the door shuts fast on the lower ego. You grasp the hand of your brother and suddenly everybody can go through, and that's amazing, you know. And what was that door that I saw before? Well, that was a figment of my selfish imagination, that door that I was going to go through, limited I. So the whole group conscious idea is there, opening wide the door of initiation. This present spiritual opportunity has been long anticipated, perhaps for 18.5 million years, the time when the newly made kingdom humanity could begin to make its transition into the fifth kingdom. That's now. 18 million years ago it was foreseen, and it's now. We can begin to enter, some of us, many have gone ahead and done it, but we can begin to enter the fifth kingdom, the kingdom of souls, and that's just a tremendous incentive. It should be a wonderful incentive for us to be able to enter this Venusian kingdom where the soul really lives in the higher air of love and life. So an imminently great future lies before humanity if we can get through this transition. Now we are in transition, and you know the cross currents of the Piscean and Aquarian age are making everything very confusing. But we must get through this transition. We must do it, otherwise, well look, Earth is a chakra within the Solar Logos, and you know which one, the base of the spine, right? That's what DK pretty well says. So we're a necessary part of a much larger system, and we have to make our way through. Otherwise, we slow the whole solar system down. Our solar system is not necessarily a done deal. You know, the Solar Logos might take the fourth cosmic initiation, or might take the fifth. And everything depends largely on Earth, which is the base of the spine center, so necessary to take the fifth cosmic initiation. So we have a big responsibility here to our higher-ups to do as well as we possibly can. We cannot fail here on Earth without retarding the progress of the Solar Logos and its entire solar system. Well, I know all of us think we have other responsibilities for the moment, but one fine day we might think about it and say, I don't want to hold you up here, you know, so we're going to try to keep moving. So much responsibility rests upon us, and indeed in the present times we are living not only within the context of the planetary initiation, which is going on, but a comparable solar initiation too. The initiation of humanity, initiation of the planet, initiation of the solar logos. It's all happening simultaneously. And the heat is on, you know. Global warming is not only man-made, the base of the spine center is heating up. So we've been told that our planetary logos is on the cosmic path of initiation and is taking a kind of fourth subsidiary initiation in which the planetary chain, our Earth chain, and our planetary globe is very much the focus. It's very intense, very intense. And when will that be consummated? Well, you know, they know, we don't know, but we're in process for right now. Similarly, it can be inferred that our solar logos, who is not yet, we are told, a sacred solar logos, not like Sirius, okay, is likewise taking a kind of fourth subsidiary initiation. And this time, through our whole planetary scheme, which is the fourth from the sun, if we include Vulcan, and the planetary logos is working with the fourth chain. All these fours are lining up, and we just happen to be the fourth kingdom. So we're really in resonance with all that is going on here. Our first initiation as a human race is necessary to help promote these other and larger, or sustain these other and larger initiations. We have a lot on our shoulders. So even the solar logos is, you know, you sometimes think the solar logos can't intervene in anything because it's too remote a being. But we're told in the third year of the First World War, there was almost a solar logoic intervention if humanity hadn't pulled things out of the hat, you know, and actually finalized that war in the right way. So the solar logos is looking on, and it's a very complex and multi-layered kind of intensity through which we are passing at this time. So in many respects, we here on our Earth globe are a very focal hotspot in the solar system. And I'm sure that we are all feeling it, even if we don't know the full story. So the true causes lie far beyond the causes usually attributed to our planetary distress. We can look at planetary distress, we have to solve it at its own level, of course, but the real causes are deeply esoteric. So all of these planetary and solar systemic initiatory changes will, of course, affect the matter or the substance that passes through them. But something much greater is at stake, greater than matter and substance, though in the seventh ray age, matter substance is very important. It's the changes in consciousness. Initiation is, most of all, certainly at this period of time, all about consciousness, and it's consciousness which counts the most. The emphasis is now on consciousness and the difference it can make in adjusting outer circumstances in the etheric physical world so that these circumstances more closely reflect hierarchical, archetypal values, the values of the heavenly worlds. You know, heaven to earth, seventh ray, it's coming, and fire is coming from heaven, whatever heaven is, and we'll discuss what heaven is. So, soul infusion changes our ordinary consciousness from that of the fourth kingdom into the fifth kingdom. We're undergoing a big change in consciousness potentially if we will to do so. If we could just understand it, what we're passing through is the infusion of the planetary personality by the planetary soul. And in our case, the infusion of the material aspect, our case here on Earth, ruled by the third ray of intelligence, adaptability, activity, and that's being infused by the second ray soul of our planet. Now think of it. These beings that are undergoing initiation, I'm not quite sure what the soul ray of humanity is. Sometimes it seems like it's the fourth, and other times he tells us that before long it's going to be the second ray of love, wisdom, with a fourth ray personality. But a second ray soul in our planetary logos, and a second ray soul in our solar logos. So it's a big heart alignment on the ray of love, wisdom, that we're all going through here. So if we don't emerge here with a better capacity to love each other, we fail, okay? So love is going to make the success of it. Part of the great challenge of today's humanity as it attempts to pass through this initiatory transition is the slow retraction of the sixth ray and the recrudescence of some of its worst characteristics, some of its most violent and destructive characteristics. Look, it's a great ray, and for another 21,000 years, we're going to be subject to the sixth ray in a larger cycle. But there is a retraction of this ray as far as the racial cycle is concerned, and we're really seeing that it represents the reactionary forces. We're all aware of it in various countries, including this country. We have a battle on our hands between the great second ray and the sixth ray. And we have to know where we stand, obviously. In a humanity which is largely emotionally polarized, or at least it's ruled by a lot of kama-manas, the fusion, which we could call the fusion or confusion between mind and emotion, the fight is on for our ideals. But it will be the ideals which lead us into the wonder of the new age. Aquarius is a very idealistic sign, okay? It will be those ideals which we promote and those values, or it will be the old ideals which are so outworn that if they are followed, they will engineer the retrogression of the entire human race, which could last centuries or longer. What DK calls it is the reinitiation into Earth. Doesn't sound very good. He talks about it in the Taurus chapter, and he's talking about the low material element, which could seize us and lead us back into elemental living. So it's not a done deal, you know, we're all needed. We were needed before the Second World War precipitated, and we're certainly needed now if Third World War is not going to precipitate. So we have to realize that in this fight between competing ideals, those who are fighting from different levels of achieved consciousness. Now, you know, everybody's the same as a monad, but we're not all the same in terms of the consciousness we have achieved. And that, really, we need to understand that somehow. The shambolic idealism, which was presented through the four freedoms to humanity, presented by that great disciple Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is hardly the same idealism as that which encourages people to fight and die, to reestablish systems of religious and political thought which emerged in the darkest periods of the age of Pisces. These are different idealisms, and we have to, you know, the conflict of ideals, DK talks about it, we have to know where we stand. I trust we all stand with the four freedoms as the great shambolic pronouncement. And wherever the four freedoms are violated or attacked, there's going to be trouble, and we have to stand for them. So this is one of the great problems as humanity does not in general realize that there will be the progressive enlightenment of consciousness over time. The ignorant modern view is that you are born as you are, and that's it, and that your nurture is largely responsible for the consciousness you demonstrate, and you're not on your way to anywhere except death. And this arises from that sacrosanct fallacy that all men are equal. Well, yeah, monadically, yes. All human beings are equal monadically. We are all created, emanated equal, absolutely. But due to the mechanism of reincarnation, all of us do not demonstrate at any one time with equal capacities. We just don't, physical, emotional, mental. Plus the fact that monads come forth at different times in the scale. So some have had a long time to work and some have not. We've got to see this without sentimentality. We are where we are because of what we've done. And modern philosophy doesn't allow you to have previous incarnations where you've actually worked and accomplished something, okay? But that's why it's so important that Christ will teach this when he reappears. So we have this modern prejudice which denies the progression of consciousness over time. And we seem to think we can just treat all human beings equally, similarly, regardless of their reincarnational stage, regardless of what they really need. So Plato knew something about this, of course. And in his Utopia and so forth, his republic, it was going to be taken care of in the right way. But we've got to educate humanity about this great law of reincarnation, which takes our monadic equality and makes it up to us as to what we really do with it. So we've got to get rid of this obstructive prejudice, which levels all things. You know the danger of Aquarius, tall poppy syndrome, they say it. You know, in Australia and New Zealand, you cut off the head of the flower if it's too tall. You know, you don't want any kind of excellence. Everybody's the same. Everything's level, and that is totalitarianism. And there's a danger of totalitarianism under the Aquarian influence, even though we think of it as the great sign of the New Age. So the law of rebirth, when he walks openly among us, that'll be a really important thing. Well, you know, hey, you know, I've done 5 out of 27 pages. What does that say to you? Goodbye. All right. Don't worry, I tend to improvise toward the end. Anyway, what really is the substance of consciousness? You know, it's not a material thing, really. I always used to, you know, ponder on that. What really is consciousness? You know, it's born of energy. It has to do with the number and the depth of registrations which we experience and the vibratory rate of those registrations. The number of them, lots, and the depth of them, consciousness has to do with that. It's the factor of consciousness which the rites of initiation are now rapidly returning to us. They nurture consciousness. Initiation nurtures consciousness, particularly. Our lives are usually focused very concretely, very materially. We don't usually think, I mean, I'm talking about all of us, human beings and all that. We do not sufficiently think of consciousness as a factor distinct from matter. And we do not seem to realize that anything may happen to the matter associated with one incarnation, and there will be spiritual profit as long as there is an elevation, an expansion, a sensitization of consciousness. It almost doesn't make any difference what happens to your material vehicle. We care a lot about it, of course, but as long as we gain in consciousness from that happening, we're on our way and we have learned something. We need to, you know, etherealize, dematerialize our conception of what we are. So obviously we've got real identity problems, and the body is right in the way. And when you look in the mirror, what you see is not what you get a whole lot more. So we've got to, you know, and DK said the major blow against materialism has been struck by atomic energy. We need for that to be quite pervasive so we can get out of the lethal materialism which is threatening a great retrogression in humanity right now. So the harvest of the reincarnational process is in consciousness. Initiation on our planet, at least, and according to DK on 2 other planets, Venus and maybe 1 other, is a great fact, because a great experiment is underway to hasten the knowledge, understanding, sensitivity, power of humanity due to previous unfortunate retardations. Now, I don't know how many of you were with me on the moon chain. Raise your hands, please. But, you know, that was a tough go. And we were held back at that point by an apparent mistake or sin of the planetary logos, and I'm sure we all played our part. There have been retardations in human progress, and now we're rapidly on our way. So we have to realize that we're still behind, even though we're moving faster. Perhaps we do not realize how strongly intelligent people will respond to this possibility, because it gives them a way out and a way through the material burdens which earthly life necessarily places upon them. We can etherealize our physical circumstances, and we're rapidly doing that. I don't expect anytime shortly the physical plane will disappear, but I do expect that the etherealization of the physical plane will come rapidly, and with it a whole new ability of the etheric body to really penetrate and redeem and re-archetypalize what's going on in this heavy, dense world. So anyway, perhaps this is why the Tibetan's first book, designed mostly for the intelligent public, though amazingly profound, was Initiation Human and Solar. It just offers a tremendous incentive, a tremendous motivation for spiritual living. I don't know how many times, some of you have read this book more than once, I suppose, Initiation Human and Solar. I always come back to it, and I'm just amazed. Everything I've been looking for over here in Cosmic Fire, or I've been looking over here in Rays and Initiations, I find it back there in Initiation Human and Solar. It's almost like a big circuit has to be made. So this is a profound book, and we certainly know the difference between a book written by a master and a book written by those who pretend to have the book written by a master. You know, just look at one page of Initiation Human and Solar, you know, the litmus test, you can see the difference. Okay, so this idea of initiation had to be presented to humanity. It had to be an incentive for them. And DK, being very wise, knew exactly how to motivate people, even if some selfish notion gets into it at first. If the idea of initiation can be presented in such a way, now this is up to us, of course, that the snare of egotism and of ambition for selfish individual progress is avoided, it can rightly motivate at least the presently intelligent levels of humanity towards their true destiny, their monadic destiny. Now it's up to us to present this subject intelligently so that we don't say final revelation, final master, final prophet, final teacher, you know, nothing final, nothing final, not even the universe is final. We've got to get over that finality that is induced by the limitations of the concrete mind, which want everything to be safe and unchanging. It changes forever. Heraclitus was correct. Nothing but the principle of unrepeatability. So we do need to present this in an intelligent way. The Christian religion, through the Pentecost, gives us a clear example of the descent of the fire from heaven. Thus, in the West, the idea of fire from heaven is not unfamiliar. Also in the West, at least, and probably in other ways in the East, it is understood not only that God is love, but that God is a consuming fire. God is the consuming fire of love, at least our God is, our second ray solar logos is. I sometimes think that when it's all over, the solar logos will have not just a fourth ray monad, but a second ray monad, a second ray soul, and finally in the next solar system, a first ray personality. But a lot of 2-2, you know, a lot of 2-2 is at work. We're all part of a big heart center, and if we learn nothing else, and I've certainly learned this in my life, I think, we've got to learn to love. If we learn nothing else. I mean, how did he progress so fast? Someone told me, hell, he had a good solar angel. Okay, he had a good solar angel. But how did Venus progress so fast? Same thing, second ray monad, you know, sixth ray monad, power of love. That's our progression is depending upon the power of our love. Now, you know, to the strictly Piscean consciousness, it may seem rather frightening to associate God or divinity with fire, okay, but spiritual occultism acquaints us with the different kinds of fire, especially the three cosmic fires, and helps us elevate our understanding of fire as a great and universal fact in nature and in supernature. So I think as we study initiation, we have to learn to become friends with heavenly fire, friends of heavenly fire, friends of the fire of God. And you know, if you read Agni Yoga, Master Morya, he just loves fire. He waxes enthusiastic when he talks about fire, you know. And of course, his Remembrance Day is in early Aries, March 24th. So I think he must be identified with that particular fire sign. So otherwise, afraid of being burned in the conventional sense, we will not enter directly into the purifying flame, and we'll hold ourselves back from experiencing the fires of initiation. The fires which hold us back from these fires, if we don't experience them, we'll never experience the wider life. So into the fire, or if not, the fire will find you, you know. We will be found, and we will become the burning ground, and we will undergo the sacred pains. Of course, I know a lot of people who are sacred pains, but this is something different. This is really undergoing the sacred pains because all of our matter and energy is being reworked and re-archetypalized. So, since the fires of initiation and conventional fire are so different, in a number of ways. Let us ask ourselves, from a spiritual perspective, what is fire? You see, I'm going along. Initiation, fire from heaven. Word by word, I'm going along somehow, so you probably see my method as I go, although there may come a point when you say, please, more tomorrow. Okay, so what really is fire? What really is heavenly fire? Well, one excellent definition from the Rays and Initiations, let's listen carefully to this. Fire is the sum total of that which destroys form, produces complete purity in that which is not itself, generates the warmth which lies behind all growth, and is vitality itself. Fire is the sum total of that which destroys form, produces complete purity in that which is not itself, generates the warmth which lies behind all growth, and is vitality itself. I've always thought that was a really beautiful definition. Now I have a lot of reflections here about what is fire. Maybe I won't, read them all. But some thoughts come to me, and I'm sure if you pondered on this amazing topic, what is fire, you would come up with your own ideas. So let us both philosophically and practically say a couple of things. I'll start with the philosophical angle. Fire is the first distinction in that, the absolute. Now, you may disagree with me and come and see me, we'll talk, okay? Fire is the first distinction in that, the absolute. Does not the ray of the absolute flashing forth manifest as what we in universe call fire? I think so. Fire is that which appears from the realm of non-appearance. The whole universe is fire, but the universe appeared from the realm of non-appearance. Fire is I like this one, fire is the first arising in absolute being. Therefore, fire is the absolute deity in its arisen state. And we have our own saying, God is a consuming fire, but now I'm talking about the absolute deity here. Okay. Within the universe, all is deity, and fire is that deity entire and all of its manifestations. This is the philosophical angle. Fire is universal substance. Fire itself is the great Mahamaya, and that's what we live in forever, cyclically, as we have universes. Fire itself is the great Mahamaya, which, at least in appearance, is perceptually, though not really, other than absoluteness. So this is all fire, all of this, and other compounds. Fire is movement. Fire is the possibility of movement. In universe, fire is that which causes movement and is movement itself. Fire is a movement which causes interaction between emanations which are fire itself. Fire is the numbers, and that which causes interaction between the numbers. When I talk about numbers, I mean the gods, okay? Fire cannot occur unless there is the arising of number. Now that, one we could ponder on. Madame Blavatsky talks about the emergence of number from no number. For me, that's the emergence of fire from something you just can't describe. Fire is life in universe. Fire is vitality, the vitality of interactivity within the emanative field and the very substance of that which is registrable by consciousness. Vitality causes movement, and there are precipitated fires and fluid fires, all kinds of fires. But fire, of course, is the essence. Fire is the root, says Master Morya, of all the other elements, earth, air, and water. Fire is them, and in various combinations, these are produced. They are all derivative from and compounds of fire. Fire is differentiation, and the energy which causes interaction amidst differentiation. Is fire light? If all that we have in the Kabbalistic universe is precipitated light, is not all as well precipitated fire, frozen fire, or at least formalized fire? We live in fire. Although, we don't see it yet, we will see it. I think Master Morya begins to see it. Is every true point, and everything is a true point, fire itself. Finally, and this is one I really like, fire is finitude. Fire is the finite. Now you might say, oh, it's the infinite. I don't think so. I think the rising of fire is the rising of finitude. Fire is intra-universal reality, but is not the nameless reality of the boundless, immutable principle, which I just think you can't describe in any way at all, you know. So, you know, going to the secret doctrine, what is fire, what is not? If anything at all happens in the state of emanation, it happens because fire became it and fire made it happen. So there are many kinds of fire as there are beings in cosmos, as there are emanations in cosmos. Every kind of emanation is a unique type of fire. Fire is change. Entities are combinations and permutations of the self-dividing one, the self-dividing fire. Fire is movement. Fire is that which causes sustained motion. Fire is any action whatsoever. And here, I'll get done with I'm finally done with my descriptions. I had a lot of fun, you know. What is fire? And you can have fun too. Sit down with the idea, what is fire? But here's decay. So now we want to really listen. Here is a magnificent paragraph from the Tibetan. Lastly, all work with fire. Fire internal, inherent and latent, fire radiatory and emanative, fire generated, assimilated and radiated, fire vivifying, stimulating and destroying, fire transmitted, reflected and absorbed, fire the basis of all life, fire the essence of all existence, fire the means of development and the impulse behind all evolutionary process, fire the builder, the preserver and the constructor, fire the originator, the process and the goal, fire the purifier and the consumer, the God of fire and the fire of God interacting upon each other till all fires blend and blaze and till all that exists is passed through the fire from a solar system to an ant and emerges as a triple perfection. Fire then passes out from the ring past knot as perfected essence, whether essence emerging from the human ring past knot, the planetary ring past knot, or the solar. The wheel of fire turns, and all within that wheel is subjected to the threefold flame and eventually stands perfected. Well, there's something to meditate on. That is such an incredible oh, wow. I mean, you know, nothing escapes the fire, nothing. So, you know, thinking more practically, maybe and a little less philosophically and with great simplicity about the fire of initiation, it burns veils, it destroys limitations, it restores archetypal purpose and the original divine pattern of any entity, it bestows great vitality. All kinds of fires there are, and this means that there are all kinds of precipitations and emanations of the one fire. Get used to thinking of yourself and everything else as fire. I mean, you know, maybe pure being is something still more archetypally essential, but, you know, fire is good enough. So it's an amazing thought. So thus much for fire. Fire, a great meditation when we meditate on fire. Okay, what's heaven? Initiation fire from heaven. Well, this is certainly a concept which must be clarified if we're going to understand what initiation really is and how it's different from the theological heaven. So heaven is certainly not one location containing certain forms. It's not a locale to which only the limitedly virtuous can gain entry. And in the context here discussed, heaven is not found on the 18 lower subplanes, which is our normal, you know, sort of sublunar life, where the various theosophical heavens and summerlands are found. That's not heaven. That's not the heaven we're talking about. The heaven involved in the initiatory process has its various points of focus far above the world of form. It is always a state of higher fire than the fire in which the candidate for initiation finds himself. It's a state of, it's relative. It's a state of higher fire. Heaven is a point of tension which contains the fires necessary to elevate the candidate from his present stage of fiery attainment to his next possible stage of fire, his next possible fiery attainment. It's always beyond the fire he has attained. So, Heaven, then I call it succeedent fire, the fire which succeeds one's present engagement with fire. For the Christ, heaven will be the logoic plane, or beyond, cosmic astral plane. For the one who's becoming a Chohan, heaven will be the monadic plane. For the one becoming a master, heaven will be the atmic plane. And the Buddhic plane for the one becoming a fourth degree initiate. Heaven is always a vibratory level beyond the vibratory level of one's present achievement. For all candidates for initiation, heaven is never lower than the causal body, never lower than the causal plane, never lower than the higher mental plane. Thus, heaven relatively is, for any being, what I would call the home of elevatory fire, the home of the fire which raises you up to your next degree, your next possibility. Well, okay, thus much for heaven. Now, what about 9 initiations? Are you up to it tonight? You know, 9 initiations is a lot for one night. But, you know, conference over, all right. He's laid before us a vision of 9 initiations. What a destiny unfolded before the eye of the mind of man. So there are 9 advancements in consciousness, just as now there are 9 ways of higher evolution, not just 7. He told us that the number 9 is really important. So a lot of you know, you turn to page 340 in the book, The Rays and Initiation, and there they all are listed, the 9 initiations. And of course, most of them are completely irrelevant to us. Like I say, we're lucky if we can really fulfill the first and second initiation. There's a lot to that, and the second initiation is very tough on people, especially who have the 2, 4, 6 line of rays. If you're a 3, 5 soul, maybe it's a little easier, a little less emotional, okay? But, you know, for a lot of us, we're on the 2, 4, 6 line, and second initiation is hard. So it's a science, and we have to treat it that way, really study, and not have the wishful thinking aspect. We have to know really what we have to do to take our next expansive step forward. Oh my. Now let's see, 12 is not yet half of 27, is it? According to my mathematics. Well, you know, I just get going and it gets so interesting, and then well, time is not real anyway, is it? I'm working on that. It's I found it much easier to solve space than to solve time. Time is tough, you know. But I'm working on it, so just enter a state of timelessness now. And I will briefly mention the 9 initiations. And then in our imaginative adventure, we will attempt to let our imagination range over them. All right, the first initiation. Now, a lot of you know this, right? I mean, how many of you know the 9 initiations? Okay, right. All right. How many of you are really modest esotericists? Okay. You know, humility helps, except when you are proud of it. Okay, birth. First initiation. Okay, maybe not all of us have taken that. One of the disciples in DK's group of some 50 hadn't taken it. It's the beginning, it's the birth of the Christ in the heart. It's the entry into the 5th kingdom, it's the entry into the hall of wisdom. You really begin to tread the path, and what DK calls spiritual instinct springs forth. It's the lowest aspect of the intuition, and it indicates readiness for the first initiation. It's involving your sacral center, the 7th ray, and the physical plane, and there are some words connected with it, and we're going to use those words when we have our meditation, so you can ponder them: beginnings, relationship, and sex and magic. Someone alerted me to the fact that there should be a period between sex and magic, so it's not sex magic. And I think that person is correct. So I put the period in there. Okay, you know, a lot of us have studied this, and I don't want to get too tedious about it, but if you have Leo and Gemini and Virgo and Capricorn, Vulcan and Pluto, these are really important planets and signs. But you know, you can take initiation with almost any sign and planets available. It's just a question of the readiness. But Leo is really important because you're going to become a new individual. Now, some of us need to be cleaned up a bit, and we go through the baptism, second initiation, or baptism by water, or recently, baptism by fire, which I guess started at the Pentecost in a way. Purification, cleansing, entering the stream. Now the stream is flowing. And you are swimming along with the ashramic stream, and although you're using your own power, you are supported by the current because you have proven yourself worthy of entering that stream. You can, at this point, then become a member of an ashram of a Chohan. And what do you have to have? Now, you know, we think of it as such a devotional initiation. No, you have to have an illumined mind and spiritual intelligence. And it takes a long time to go between the first and second initiation, and frankly, I think that's where most of us are anyway. If you look at DK's group, very few were right on the cusp of the second initiation, and others were envisioning it, maybe a life or two ahead. He promised a couple of people that. But it's not just a piece of cake, you know. It's the toughest one we really have to go through, short of the Arhat initiation. So a lot of sixth ray there, the astral plane, and the words are, and we'll mention them later so you can meditate, dedication, glamour, and devotion. So, you know, we've done this in the astrology group and all that, but Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune are very important, and you can't get rid of Mars and Pluto because they're going to fight it out there too. And what's the sign most associated with the second degree that we are also applying towards? What do you think? Yes, it is. Yes, it is Scorpio. Yes, it is. Leo for the first initiation, Scorpio for the second. Okay. And that, you know, that's why a lot of suffering is there. Then comes the transfiguration initiation. It's called in different traditions the illumination, the enlightenment, Satori, the supernal light. Finally, the focus of your consciousness is in the causal body. And DK tells us this, and tell me which of you has achieved it. I won't raise my hand. Freedom from the ancient authority of the threefold personality. Hands, please. Okay. Freedom from the ancient authority of the threefold personality. And a lot of fifth ray there, and the Ajna Center, very important. Integration, direction, science. Approach from the level tableland, and not only through aspiration, no. Venus is very important here, and Capricorn is the sign most associated. I'll tell you what, I've got, if you want more of the details, I worked up a very rather extensive paper on how every sign of the zodiac could apply to every one of the 9 initiations. So if you want that, I'll send it to you. Just put your name on the list. Where the paper is, I don't know, but find it, put your name on the list, and I will send it to you. Next comes renunciation. Renunciation of the desire to leave this room now before it's too late. Okay. We call it crucifixion, freedom from the dense physical body of the solar logos, freedom from the lower 21 subplanes, polarization on the Buddhic plane, and I love it how he says here, the ending of all possible self-interest. Huh. The ending of all possible self-interest. The first direct contact with the monad. A lot of fourth ray, heart center open up, crucified heart, crucifixion, sacrifice, but your reward will be in heaven. Harmony is the third word. And believe it or not, Gemini is a major sign here. And obviously Pisces. And our planets are Saturn and Mercury very much. You know, everything's relevant. Everything's relevant. Everything's related to everything else, you know. But I'm just hitting a few main points. So all the signs can be associated. Well, after your crucifixion, your well-deserved entry into mastership. It's called the revelation. Mastery over the 3 lower subplanes, polarization on the atmic plane, the vision of the 7 or 9 paths which you will be traveling on the way of higher evolution when you make your decision. You know, DK has some wonderful things to say here. At the fifth initiation, it is revealed to the initiate that life in form is indeed death. And he then knows this truth in a manner which my few short words cannot convey. Form dies for him, and he knows a new expansion of life and undergoes, if I may so express it, a new understanding of living. And that's just, those words are chosen by DK, raised in Initiations 728. A lot of first ray there, atomic plane. The words are emergence, will, purpose. The sun is very important, Leo's very important, Pluto's very important. Got to have the base of the spine activated, and I won't get into all the details. Aquarius is important too. Have you had enough yet? Good thing I can't see. Okay. Now your decision comes. The sixth initiation. This is actually, it's called ascension. You know how these days everybody's ascending? Well, this is the real deal, you know. This is the real ascension up to the monadic plane and maybe beyond. You're really returning. There is now cosmic development. I don't know, I have some DK quotes, they're marvelous. Let's see if we have time for them. He can't say much more about it. It embodies the master's recognition of liberation. And in its processes, he demonstrates that liberation by making a free decision anent his future state of being and purpose. It's a totally free decision at the sixth degree as to which of the 9 paths you're going to take, and there's only one correct choice. And apparently, you know, I don't know what hope there is for us when the Buddha made a mistake, you know. He made a mistake because of compassion. You know, excessive compassion. And in the next just the way the Black Lodge in this solar system uses intelligence to block the way of love, DK kind of warns us, watch out for love in the next solar system because it can be used to block the way of will. Anyway, compassion. Too much. And the planetary logos did the same thing on the moon chain. He let the beast out of the bag, and we've had a lot of trouble ever since. So, well, it's just beautiful. He's entirely liberated from his past. Sounds good, right? Law of karma is no longer having any sway over him. He makes free decision, and his future is decided by him, not on the basis of its inevitability or as providing him with a field in which to work off karma, but on the basis solely of qualification for service, and there's one correct decision. So this is very different. Okay. There's no turning back. It's a fixed decision, and nor is there any desire to turn back or possibility that he could do so. So therefore, in this third ray, Libran kind of initiation, fixation, intelligent cooperation and creativity. These are the words. Now, every one of these words could be so deeply pondered. And you may say, well, why am I even talking about this stuff when all of us have so much more humble tasks to take care of? We all know, you know, where we stand in many ways and how many non-accomplished things there are. But okay, when you have that expanded vision, something can happen to you. There can be such an elevation of your anticipation and your willingness to work towards the distant goal that it really can be a shot in the arm, you know. So that's why I'm doing it, and I think that's why DK is doing it. So these journeys here that begin, you're outward bound, it's Libra, it's a path, it's Sagittarius, it's a big trip. You're going toward the stars, you're shooting for the stars, and your goal is one or other of the chakras, constellational chakras of the one about whom naught may be said. So you're on your way to a certain constellation, and it all ends in the Pleiades, which is the hub of the wheel for our local system. So it's a big trip. I don't know how long it takes. But before long, as monads, we'll be on our way. Okay, well, I just have some lovely stuff here to talk about, but you know, I'm going to be considerate and begin jumping over the essential. Okay, sorry. I don't want to skip resurrection, you know. Resurrection is pretty important, and it's not just Master Jesus rising from the dead. It is that too, associated with the fourth and fifth initiations. But you're resurrected at the seventh initiation. That's the real Aries initiation, into your true solar self. You're raised up onto the logoic plane to sit at the right hand of God. It's a little more than dogma tells us. You really come and go as you please in Shambhala at this point. The significance of creation is revealed, and he says a marvelous thing. I have to read it. I just have to read it. The seventh initiation is divorced from all considerations of form, and the initiate becomes a concentrated point of living light. He knows in a manner indescribable that life is all that is, capitalization, and that it is this life and its real fullness which makes him a part of that, capitalized, which lies outside the planetary life. He may now share in that extraplanetary existence in which our planetary lives and moves and have his being. It's a big solar initiation, you see. It's ruled by Gemini, by the heart of the sun, by its love and wisdom together. This is the life more abundantly of which the Christ spoke, and which only an initiate of the seventh degree can understand or convey. It sounds very, you know, look, the Christ has not completed this yet, okay? At the end of the Aquarian age, he completes this. So Master DK, you know, he's speaking somewhat theoretically, but he knows whereof he speaks, but he has not done this yet. The seventh initiation gives the initiate the right to, quote, come and go in the courts of Shambhala. Well, I know a lot of people who are doing that and are on first-hand terms with Sanat Kumara. Sanat told me this today. Well, okay, but you know, a sense of proportion will be achieved at some point. Sanat is not terribly interested in what you do each day and what you have for breakfast or dinner. So, but later, at the seventh initiation, come and go in the course of Shambhala as service may require. So, okay, well, there's just some great things here, but you know, I'm going to be uncharacteristically considerate. This is, the head center is involved here, your second ray is involved, Gemini is involved, Jupiter and the sun are involved, and your words are, the eternal pilgrim, who's that? That's you. Love, wisdom, and attraction. Big second ray initiation, okay. Which the Christ just recently passed a high point of in Gemini of 1943. He reached a certain point where a phase in that seventh initiation was passed, and it led to his decision about reappearance. It's really, really important. Okay. Now comes the initiations with which we are most concerned in our life, the eighth and ninth. I mean, have you read this stuff? Have some of you read this? Have you survived reading it? Okay. All right. I'm just amazed at what he says about this and what a monadic destiny it promises for us, those who are wielding victors through pure, clear will. Okay, well, transition. To the cosmic astral plane, mind you, and the significance of quality is revealed. Freedom from the reaction of consciousness, as that word is understood by us, and a liberation into a state of awareness, a form of conscious recognition which has no relation to consciousness as you understand that term. You know the phrase, they onward move in life. You know that one from the rules. It might be regarded as complete freedom from sensitivity, yet with a full flowering of that quality to which we give the inadequate name compassion. Okay, paradoxes, right? More I cannot say, says DK. so I'd better shut up too. All right. I mean, and you kind of, you have to be protected at this initiation because there's the realization of what cosmic evil really is and how to deal with it, more or less. And on the cosmic astral plane, that's where you really find it. So it's called the transition. The words are choice, consciousness, and sensitivity. And, the 4 minor rays are connected. What are you going to say about what signs of the... Now, look, you say, well, signs of the zodiac should not be involved in those kinds of initiations because they're too high. But let's remember what a constellation of the zodiac actually is. And what it is an aspect of the heart in the head center of the one about whom naught may be said. So there's this big heart center in this super cosmic logos, and each constellation of the zodiac is 1/12 of that heart in the head center. So those are high energies, and they can indeed be involved in these high initiations, including the initiations of planetary and solar logoi. That's how big those energies are. Finally comes the refusal. The refusal, the 9th initiation. Some people get scared if their consciousness expands too much or the subject gets too large. That is a knee-jerk reaction of the concrete mind and the astral body. Retreat to where things are safe. Well then, from this point of view, it's not safe to read Master DK. Hope you're ready for that. Okay. Refusal to maintain contact with the cosmic physical plane. The significance of purpose is revealed. You're moving into what he calls an unimaginable life. I'll read a little bit, since it seems to be the end of the trail, but then a whole new system of initiations begin for those who are more elevated beings. Every type of being has his own system of initiation. A globe lord, a chain lord, a planetary logos, a solar logos, a cosmic logos, they all have their systems of initiation until the great day comes, the day be with us, when they re-become the universal logos, as every atom and each of us will. Freedom from all possible forms of enticement, particularly with reference to the higher planes. It must constantly be remembered, and hence my constant reiteration, that our 7 planes are just the 7 subplanes of the cosmic physical plane. At the 9th initiation of refusal, where, by the way, all illusion ends, at least with respect to the cosmic physical plane. For most of us, illusion, we'd be happy to get our minds straight, but illusion keeps following you all the way up the cosmic physical plane, even though they seem like great spiritual planes. It's not until this degree that that kind of illusion ends. So, the revelation presented to the Master concerns the nature of being and of existence. There is naught I can say to you, says DK, which could in any way be explanatory of being. For being is related to that, capitals, which creates, to the universal point of planetary or solar life, which is, and has ever been, responsible for the life of all forms, from the greatest manifestation to the smallest. When that revelation is accorded to the initiate, he, for the first time, receives his initial contact with what is called in the occult and esoteric books the central spiritual sun. He realizes for himself that those words concern a basic fact and are related to the purpose of the solar system, just as the heart of the sun revealed to him the quality of the solar system. When this is realized that our planetary purpose is mysteriously related to the revelation of love upon our little planet, the Earth, through the process of creation, the concept emerges that there is the probability that our planet has a unique relation to the heart of the sun with its second ray soul. And these are many hints for you. There are many hints for you in what I've said. There are the hints to me also, he says, only I can bring to their expansion into ascertained fact a wider knowledge than is as yet in your possession. And I guess we have to agree with him. So that's it. That's the 9, and there are other things to be said, and I would really direct you and me to the last part of Raise and Initiation, where these amazing ideas are somewhat developed. Now, is that too big a trip? Is it too impractical? Is it too impractical to expand your imagination to the point where the destiny of you as a monad can be somewhat appreciated? See, what is practical and what is not? I always fight this out in my own mind, and I fight it out with other people. If you can have a huge expansion of consciousness, it's going to change the way you deal with everyday matters, here and now and this and that. It's going to change that. So the wider your consciousness, the more practical you become. This is my theory. All right. Now that should really be the end. And, you know, it pretty well is the end. I mean, if I skip 3 pages, it's the end. And I'm very tempted to skip 3 pages. Only to say that in the next 9 years, we have to learn how to stand in spiritual being in order to really fulfill our true disciplic function. Sometimes it's asked, look, have the World Disciple Group failed? Have they succeeded? And we debate this and that. And have all of the opportunities given to us really been fulfilled? Oh, probably not, you know. But nor have we failed, I think. But special requirements now. Special requirements next 9 years. Fire from heaven is descending. The plans are being laid for the externalization and the reappearance. And we have to learn how to fight fire with fire, and Decade tells us about that. The fire of the will to love, the fire of love, fights all of these lower fires, where we must learn how to negate the fires of war which threaten to engulf humanity and the earth. And if you don't believe it, he warned against this. But the fire of love and of the will to love, fire from heaven, ever greater love all the time, and skill in action can make it possible for us to stand where we must and really help this situation. It must not happen that the war precipitate. It has to be fought out, he says, on the psychological plane with mental weapons, his quote, mental weapons. And we have to do our part to do that, do our part. We know what's coming for humanity, it's great. But humanity doesn't realize it yet, and we have a job a great educational effort to help people understand what a real incentive is, and not what some kind of childish heaven is. Who wants to stop on the 4th subplane of the mental plane or on the higher astral planes and, think that that's forever? It's not. Real things are coming, and the mind of humanity has to open. A great fulfillment lies ahead of us, and we have to share that fulfillment with everyone we can touch, everyone we can reach, who are just so thirsty for the kind of reality that comes from the hierarchy and, from the ageless wisdom. And I would just close by saying that hierarchy is counting on us. Thank you.